Okay, you read the title and thumbnail to the video. We all know what this video is about. Let's not monkey around here. After all, gorillas are apes, not monkeys. So without any further ado, I am Ian, and this is the Streets of Rogue character guide to the gorilla.
All you have to do is put a banana in your ear.
A banana in my ear?
The gorilla is unlocked via rescuing one from a lab. It does not matter if the reason they escaped was because you killed the scientist and looted the key, hacked the terminal remotely, or just smashed one of the walls of the cell for them to break free. So long as you are the reason that they became free, you will unlock this character. As for the gorilla's backstory, it reads, "This beast was raised in a science lab and given experimental drugs that made them hyper-intelligent. Lacks the ability to speak English and smells like your Uncle Denny's used toilet brush, but they're super fast and ridiculously strong. Hates scientists with a burning passion, and the sentiment goes both ways." As for your starting attributes, you have a 4 in everything except for firearms, which is an abysmal 1, which hardly matters at all to you since you have the stubby fingers trait like the previously covered zombie, meaning using a gun in any capacity is out of the question. I still advise picking up guns off the ground when you find them, however, to avoid hostile NPCs from being able to pick them up off the ground and use them against you. And just like the zombie, you also have the vocally challenged trait, meaning conversation with non-gorillas will require the translator item in your inventory or for you to spend a colossal sum of money at an augmentation booth to remove this trait. You even have a special ability just like a zombie, but this is where the similarities end with that character since it's a completely different special ability. This one is called Primal Lunge. This special ability will allow you to charge up your melee attacks if you so desire and lunge forth with a charging melee attack that will do twice the damage and have twice the range of a normal melee strike. The damage boost you get with this special ability can stack with whatever traits you have on standby, meaning if you combine it with the backstabber trait, you can actually end up doing 4 times the normal damage you would if you can fist someone from behind. This means with the right setup, you can actually end up becoming a monster that can one-shot literally anything in the game short of the killer robot. However, you sadly don't get to start the game with traits like Backstabber, and instead must make do with traits like Madoris. This trait makes it so that shopkeepers will request you to leave their shops. But let's be honest with ourselves here. If you don't have a translator in an inventory, there's really no point in trying to speak with shopkeepers anyway, since you'll have to spend so much money at an augmentation booth to get rid of the vocally challenged trait that you wouldn't have any cash left over to actually buy anything from a shopkeeper to begin with. Besides, the only shopkeeper in this game worth speaking to as the gorilla character is already going to talk to you anyway, regardless of this trait. This is because the only shopkeeper worth speaking to as the gorilla are the gorillas that will show up in shopping malls in the uptown and downtown floors as a gorilla who will sell bananas to you if you can speak gorilla with them, which, as a gorilla yourself, you obviously can do. This means the only reason you'd want to hold a translator in your inventory is if you intended to use intimidation or bribery in order to complete mission objectives whatsoever. However, time spent trying to bribe or coerce individuals into giving you what you want is time not spent gorging on bananas, which is something you're going to be doing with this character because of your banana lover trait, which doubles the HP you gain from eating this sacred yellow phallic fruit. It even stacks with a mini fridge item, allowing you to heal for an absolute truck ton of health. And this is straight up amazing since you start with 2 bananas in your starting inventory. Because of this, I advise on stocking up on bananas as much as possible in the load-automatic and cloning booths, since you can easily stockpile a horde of bananas to help you heal so much that it will be near impossible to kill you. You also have the team building expert trait, just like the previously covered creeps and bloods, boosting your follower cap from 1 to 3. In addition, you have the tank light trait, which reduces knockback you receive, meaning you can't be pushed away from incoming attacks. The downside to this is that you can no longer surf the knockback you receive from certain attacks in order to escape a fight. However, given the gorilla's propensity to melee combat, it's unlikely you're going to want to run away from any fight. The last of your starting traits is Scientist Slayer, which makes it so that all scientists are hostile to you and boost XP you get from killing them, which is something you're going to be doing a lot of when you're going about your big quest. Speaking of your big quest, let's go over that now.
Get ready to mind state.
Your big quest, much like whenever someone decides to take a nap on Mother's side of the bed, is called Hairy Justice. In this quest, you must free all the imprisoned gorillas on each floor. If you complete this quest correctly, once you reach the mayor's village, your Primal Lunge will have a reduced charge time. I recommend acquiring the Wall Walloper trait if you can as you level up in order to complete this quest more efficiently, since you can effectively use this trait to sacrifice weapon durability on your melee weapons to simply revoke the existing privileges of walls. This will trivialize the quest significantly, since demolishing walls as a rule of thumb is easier to do than trying to fight off every single person in the security detail of any given building. Thankfully, any gorillas you rescue from imprisonment will automatically become followers for you. This means the majority of the time you should have at least 1 or 2 gorilla followers acting as backup for whatever you get yourself into. Just remember that while your followers are smarter than zombies and will actually pick up weapons off the ground in the heat of a fight to give themselves an advantage, it's best to actually give them tools in advance so they don't need to do so in the first place. So if you ever find yourself running out of inventory space and see a few items that could be useful in the heat of a fight, you might want to hand them over to some of your followers just to free up space for that quest item you just got. When you're doing this big quest, please bear in mind that gorillas will actually end up spawning into any locked room. This means when you have this quest active, you can end up having gorillas spawn into rooms that they would otherwise never appear in, such as the storage room of a bar. So if you're having trouble trying to complete this quest, please pull up the map menu and check what rooms may or may not be locked and holding a gorilla in them. This should be relatively easy for you to figure out, since the map menu will show you where every building is and where their rooms are. And while some trial and error will be necessary on your end, since you have no way of telling which ones are locked and what's inside those rooms in the first place, figuring out what buildings may or may not have a locked room in them and which ones you've already been to is not exactly a hard thing to figure out. And whilst some of you might be tempted to remove your negative traits at an augmentation booth, I advise spending that money on bananas and clones instead, since 4 gorillas high on potassium are far more effective at dealing with opposition than a sober gorilla with a gun in most cases. Unless of course you found some way to increase your firearm stat, in which case go guns blazing. All in all, I give the gorilla a Hulk smash out of 10. If you want to feel like the Incredible Hulk and just go smashing everything in sight with no regard for subtlety whatsoever, then the gorilla is unquestionably the best character for you. That's all for now though. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment on what characters you want to see me cover in the future. I've been Ian, you have been you, and this has been the Streets of Rogue character guide to the gorilla. And stay tuned, the comedian is coming up next.